Buffalo, stand up. It's the mafia. It's a Bill City. Yeah, a Buffalo Bill City. Yo, it's a Bill City. Yeah, a Buffalo Bill City. Yo, we got Josh Allen, got Steph Diggs, we got Cole. Deion Dawkins, cause you know it's about to snow. Mafia, you know we on a roll. No competition and it's not even close.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome into a brand new edition of the Folding Roundtable. Overlay set up there for an extra second than it should have. Sorry about that. The new podcast brought to you by Trainwreck Sports and the Buffalo FAMBase with a brand new lineup every single week here to talk about the week that was and the week ahead for the Buffalo Bills. Wake here from Trainwreck Sports, the Crowd's podcast, and Trainwreck Fantasy Football. Godmother of Bills Mafia, Robyn Mundy, is here. Thank you for being here again, Robyn. Joe Miller from the Overreaction podcast on Buffalo Rumblings up there in the top right. And don't boo, I know, bottom left, we have someone from behind enemy lines, Lisa Johnson, joining us. She's a Dolphins reporter for, did I really not write it down in my notes? Man, I am sorry. Lisa, tell us where you're from, what you cover the Dolphins for, and what you do.
No problem. Thanks for having me, fellas. You know, I know it's tough. I know being in second place and all, but I just wanted to just say that, you know, I'm from Our Turf Football. It's OurTurfFB.com.
Man, well, you're bringing the heat early, and man, do I love that. I said when we were before we came live, you know, I'll say scoreboard to the Dolphins. You guys are in the win in week one, and you know, talk to us a bit about that game. You know, I'll give you the floor here first before we get into all the Josh Allen regression talk that I'm sure everyone's really excited to hear about. How can you describe week one of the NFL season for the Miami Dolphins?
Well, earn's kind of hard because I kind of think that, you know, we kind of got a little lucky there on the end. But you know what? We have a 23-game streak of a turnover. I mean, and that's one of the things that's an incredible stat in the NFL right now. I think the second team is 9. So, you know, we have a 23-game streak of getting a turnover. And during that game, we needed the turnover when we got it. And it was perfect. Xavier Howard punched the ball out. You know, and one thing that I think that we deserve credit for is for once in a couple years, we actually ran the clock out. We got the ball back, ran the clock down to 0 times. So, you know, you're starting to kind of see a little bit more of an aggressive approach the Dolphins are taking, where before it would probably be just like run, kill some of the clock, then punt away. It wasn't. Coach Flores went right after the clock, you know, with an aggressive throw from Tua and the slant from our own end zone. So it was an earned win at the last couple minutes. Yeah. But anytime you can go into Foxborough and come out with a win, I'm going to take it.
Oh goodness. Yeah. And, you know, Robyn, Joe, anytime you guys have questions for Lisa about the Dolphins, about week one, feel free to chime in, obviously. But I want to ask you about, you know, the JC Jackson comments about Tua. I'm sure you saw, you're laughing, so I know you saw them. Great.
Oh yeah. You couldn't miss them, right? He caused a lot of,
yeah,
you know, and, you know, I'm dealing with a split fan base down here on Tua. I mean, you have the Tua train where people are just, you know, hardcore and go after it. And then you have the people that almost kind of agree with them, to be very honest with you. And so, you know, I think that it got a lot of hype. And, you know, for him, to me, it's ammunition. I love quarterbacks that just will thrive off of stuff like that, you know, and say, okay, yeah, you know the old stories. You put the articles up in your locker, you know, use some motivation next time. You know, if you don't want it to be true, then prove it's not. That's my biggest thing.
For me, the question I would have is, and I didn't get to see the game, so I apologize. I was actually at the stadium. We couldn't get out of the parking lot until about 6:30.
Same.
Wow. Bill Belichick put a team together this year that, for me, is a team that other defenses don't want to play against. He's very much trying to recall that Aaron Hernandez, Rob Gronkowski, double tight ends that can kill you type of an offense, which most defenses don't have the ability to necessarily scheme against or stop. What did you see from their offense whether good or bad, and did they use it the way that I fear they're going to use it against us, because we've traditionally had a problem covering tight ends, one tight end, let alone two tight ends.
Oh man.
So yeah,
And that's a very good point, Joe, because honestly, I was on a show this morning and we actually talked about it. I personally think that's the offense you're going to see from the Dolphins this weekend.
Really?
I think you're going to get a whole lot of Gaskin, and we just got
Don't
Sheehan
say
back, and you're going to see some. I think he's going to use it, but you understand that's Coach Flo coming from a branch of the Patriots,
right?
Because Bill Belichick, that's their bread and butter. Let's be honest. The last years with Brady was that double tight end set that killed us for 20 years.
Right.
So I kind of think that, the MO for the Dolphins this weekend is going to be almost kind of mimics that.
Yeah.
So I think the Bills, but I think the Bills know that too, because you got tape on it. These are two teams that play each other twice a year, very familiar. We got the bad side of it at the end of that season because, like I said, it was momentum. The Bills were on a roll. It was let's be honest. I mean, there was Miami went into Buffalo with a prayer. Come on, because the Bills were just super red hot.
The reality is they're scheduled to play twice a year, but rarely do the Dolphins show up for both games.
Rarely. Hopefully, we're going to change that with this 2 tight end set that you might see Sunday.
Oh my God, I've had nightmares about those 2 tight end sets, to be honest.
And we didn't have Sheehan. He's coming off the COVID-19 reserve list, so we didn't have him. So we didn't have a complete. I mean, and like you said, you set these games up per the things we've seen in the past. Mm-hmm. The Dolphins are very familiar with Josh Allen. We know what he can do. I'm just kind of excited that, Pittsburgh laid out a little bit of a blueprint on him, but you also have to kind of give the Steelers props. I mean, they only had 4 men rushing sometimes, and they still got to Allen.
Sometimes 3.
Yeah.
3, exactly. And they still put pressure on him. Now, I'm not going to put the Dolphins defensive line with the Steelers right now. I think that we're going to need to bring a couple more people. But keep everything in front of you. And you got to make sure tackles on Josh Allen, because how many times has he killed us coming out of that pocket, and moving the change. And that's what Buffalo does to us. They move the chains. You guys always constantly, consistently on third downs. We got to get off the field on third down. And we just haven't the last couple of years. We just haven't.
Yeah, and you bring up the Dolphins' defensive line. I see you only sacked Mac Jones once in that Week 1 matchup.
Once.
Was that a matter of, and by your tone, I can guess the answer. And if anyone has questions for Lisa about the Dolphins, please comment them. We'd love to get yours. But was that a factor of, just the Dolphins' defensive line not getting it done? Or was Mac Jones surprisingly maybe mobile for what people could expect?
I think that was just a good game plan by Belichick of getting the ball out of Mac Jones's hands before the pressure could get there. Yeah. And so we played a lot of soft zone, which you saw a lot of those slants, 5-6 yards after the catch killed us a couple times. We couldn't get off the field because, those yards after catches kill you. You've got, you're on a 3rd and 6 and you throw a 3-yard slant and you gain, 8 yards. That moves the chains. And that's exactly what I think happened. I think that Belichick just put the game plan in to get the ball out quick. Now, we got to him, we pressured him, but I mean, he had to surprise. He surprised a lot of people with getting the ball out of there. I mean, sometimes he hung in there and took the hit, but the ball amazingly was very accurate. So, I don't know necessarily if it caught the Dolphins off guard, but I really expected the Dolphins to be a little bit more aggressive on defense than they were. To me, they just played soft on him a little bit and just they got to him, but they just couldn't get him on the ground.
Yeah. And Joe, I know, this kind of ties into the Bills offensive line. And I think I saw that you had a pretty good discussion on your podcast on Monday night about the offensive line. Some good, a lot of bad though. You don't have to give everything away from that show, but what did you guys talk about on that show? What's just the main takeaway from week 1 for the Bills offensive line?
So you're referencing the Off Tackle with John Fina show, and it is an incredible, cool honor just to be able to host that show, and then to say that John has kind of become a good friend of mine, because it was not expected when the whole relationship kind of started. But John is very insightful, and for everybody here obviously should know who John Fina is. He played for the Buffalo Bills for 11 years. But he just talked about, it was basically just clearly technique. It was a big, huge technique issue. It was funny because one of the comments that he made was that our offensive tackles, both Darrell Williams and Deion Dawkins, looked like Phoebe from Friends when she runs. I don't know if you guys ever watched that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he said, and he very much broke it down that, like, you know, if you're doing your kickbacks and your arms are wide, it allows the defensive end or the rusher to immediately get to your chest. And once they get to your chest, you've lost, because now your arms around them. And that's why we saw 6 or 7 holding penalties, because then they get turned and then it's a hold.
Yeah.
And he just talked about the fact that, you know, the trick is to keep, and he put his hands in the screen because he's got them big old long arms, big old hands, you know, about doing, you know, pat punches and, you know, basically keeping them at arm's length and pushing them, keeping them away from you. And he was just overly right and precise in his assessment of the offensive line without being mean. John's very good about not being disparaging towards the players, but they were very much, they had some serious technique issues on that offensive line. And clearly that is a big part of Josh Allen's regression that we're seeing.
Oh, I'm so happy you brought that up so
There we go.
organically, because we do have, you know, I have a video clip ready here to play, and I have it titled "The Season Is Over." Sad.
There was big hype for 2 AFC teams to make serious noise this season. The Tennessee Titans, who acquired Julio Jones this offseason, and Josh Allen and those Buffalo Bills. However, they both took L's in week 1 at home. Buffalo at the hands of the Steelers, who don't have the most prolific offense, Stephen A. As you can see, Bart Scott here with us.
I'm concerned with both, right? Because I believe right now they're a little fraudulent. Because listen, both of these teams and organizations were sold to us as Super Bowl contenders, as people that can maybe knock Kansas City off the top of the mountaintop. And then when I look at what's happening, and I look at really what happened, you know, all the old bad habits started to show back up for Josh Allen. Josh Allen had 21 incompletions, right? You talk about going in into Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, I thought, pushed them around, defensively dictated the game. But my biggest issue and concern is with the Tennessee Titans.
So the concern is not as bad with the Bills as the Tennessee Titans, but Josh Allen, man, did he have too many incompletions, I guess.
He had trouble in Pittsburgh. I didn't realize I'd driven to Pittsburgh this weekend, but he had trouble in Pittsburgh, clearly.
Yeah, that as well. Yeah, so that's everything you need to know right there. But, you know, Lisa, you're hearing us talk about these offensive line struggles. Okay, we're not going to spend much time on the Josh Allen regression.
Come on, I'm taking notes. Just get back to the line.
But, you know, you hear these O-line struggles for us. Do you think that plays to an advantage for the Dolphins? Could that be a point of emphasis for Brian Flores' team?
Well, sure. And every week, you know, don't think that you go into these locker rooms and you'll see stats on your players in the Dolphins locker rooms. And I'm sure it's every single team where what did Dawkins have? 3 holding calls?
Yeah.
So that's circled. It's like, okay, what did they do enough to make him hold? What did the pressure do? So I think you always kind of look at that. But I'm also always on the offensive line the first couple games. To me, it always takes a couple games for these guys to get together, get continuity back, you know, timing, cadence calls, all this stuff. I always say that it takes at least 3 or 4 games, and us too. You know, because every single season with us, we always talk about our offensive line. Every single one of these podcasts, I guarantee you, we're going to talk about offensive lines. You know, and you know, you have to have good depth. One thing that I know a lot of teams do is like Eichenberg. He was our left tackle. He didn't take a left tackle snap all training camp. So nobody had any film on that.
That brings up a question that I have for you about Austin Jackson. I know he's brought back from the COVID list.
Right.
How is it? Has there been anything out there in the media about how he handled his COVID experience? Did it wipe him out? Because we had a real problem with Deion Dawkins.
Yeah. Did you? Okay. He refuses to answer the questions. Today, and very nicely just declined when one of the reporters asked him exactly, you know, what was the extent of the COVID? And he just said he'd rather not talk about it. And usually the media people that are right there, when a player refuses to talk about themselves medically, don't ask again. So he just kind of refused to disclose any information. And I'm sure that's because you don't want to put information out there like that, you know, but we all know that. And, you know, like I said, he did it. He traveled, you know, my question on that was, you traveled to New England on a private charter. It had to be just for debt, because if you are still suffering from symptoms from COVID, why are you putting a player on a charter? Why are you even, you know? So it was kind of like a couple issues with a couple of the fan bases down here kind of talking about that. If you kind of knew you weren't going to use him because of he's still having a little bit of issues, you know, and how bad he had it. But honestly, Robyn, he won't talk about it.
And
so,
and it's interesting that both left tackles for each of these teams had battles with COVID.
Right.
And obviously Deion Dawkins doesn't look himself. And we talked about it last night on the Crowd Assist podcast that, you know, we're barely a month removed away from Sean McDermott saying Deion Dawkins is, quote, nowhere close to being able to help this team.
Right.
So Robyn, Joe, do you guys think that maybe there are some lingering effects from his battle with that still? He's not completely over it. Yeah, Robyn?
Yeah, I'll take that one first.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't know how there wouldn't be. And particularly true if he had any respiratory difficulties during that time. I know Deion said, I mean, this is out in the media. You can find it. What did he lose? 18 pounds in a couple of days. And that's a lot of weight, you know, even for a big dude, you know, that's a lot of weight. And you could see, at least I thought, and I couldn't stomach watching the game again to look at the offensive line, but it sure looked like, you know, he was feeling it by the end of the game. And he's got a ways to go. But that's why I was wondering about Austin Jackson, because is he going to be, if he plays, is he going to be 100%? Who knows?
For sure. And for me to answer that question, and, you know, when you think about, I had COVID in January, and I had a very, very, thank the Lord, mild case. I had a dry cough for a day and a half. However, the fatigue part was real. So getting up the stairs to go to bed, the fatigue part was like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, I can't get up my stairs right now. I don't even feel sick. Now you put Deion Dawkins in the hospital for 2 weeks, lose 18 pounds. And when you look at, let's just talk about runners, and we'll take Daniel Jones when he ran that big, long run back. So he starts the run and he's got all of his energy and everything's nice and tight and his form is perfect, right?
Yes.
And then as they get going, all of a sudden they start kind of getting loose, right? Because they're getting fatigued. And the next thing you know, he's on the ground. And that's what happens. I mean, you get into these games 3 hours later going against Melvin Ingram or TJ Watt, and you're fatigued to the point, and like literally limbs are flailing all over the place. Like you can't control your body. So I would say absolutely 100% yes. He probably, I don't want to say he shouldn't have played in that football game, but they probably could have rotated him or spelled him a little bit, right?
Yeah, I was shocked we didn't see more Spencer Brown or anyone, Tommy
Doyle.
Was too. Like I don't know. Like, you know, it was just bizarre, to be honest. But one bright spot is being Cody Ford. I mean, it took them how many, 4 years, over 3 years now to figure out that they should just play him at guard. I get it. They wanted to fit that square peg into the round hole so damn badly. But, you know, Joe, I'm sure that's something you talked about John Fino with, is about Cody Ford. Is there anything he had to say about him?
Yeah.
Just that he feels like he has heavy feet. So that was really the only Cody Ford was our best guard or our best offensive lineman. Mitch Morse played well. I don't want to say that. Mitch Morse played a very good football game.
True.
The two of them together did well. He feels that Cody's got a little bit, like, just has some heavy feet and you can translate that however you want. I would say, and I think all of us would agree, Lisa's hoping that this isn't true. That's not a finished product. I don't think that offensive line is going to look like that this weekend or going forward. That you're talking about 5 guys that have a lot of experience. Darrell Williams was the unsung hero of this football team, in my opinion, last year. Came in kind of on a whim and ended up being an animal on an island by himself. But let's keep in mind as well, to Lisa's point about continuity, these 5 guys, that was the first time they'd ever played together. They've never played together until Sunday in that football game. So,
Yep. And you're going to see it. You're going to see probably about it. To me, it kicks in about game 4. Right. That's when I think it kicks in. And I just want to ask you guys a quick question about the Miami weather down here. We're talking about the COVID. We're talking about fatigue. You know, so if he's still kind of, like Joe said, feeling some of the effects, the humidity is going to kick his ass.
Yes, it is.
Yes and no. And Wake can attest to this. This has been the weirdest summer in Buffalo we've ever had in Buffalo. It has been so humid all summer long. It's been 89 and humid, 95 and humid. It's been 72 and humid. Like the humidity. So the last preseason game against the Packers, rather,
it was a blistering.
It was a stinker.
My feet were swollen when I got home. Just from sitting there, that's how hot it was. Like it was
Really?
just, I was soaking wet and my feet were swollen when I got home. Like it was so freaking hot. So
welcome to every one of my weekends.
So I would say that there's some connection to that heat. They didn't have a problem necessarily last year. That was a game Josh Allen threw 420 yards in. Obviously,
before the halftime.
Yeah, they're going to be wearing blue, which is difficult. By the way, this is we've got a Dolphins fan on, and this rivalry is being rebirthed. And Weil and I are very connected to this rivalry because of obviously our age, and as are you, Lisa. So I'm not sure how much I'm supposed to make fun of Lisa. Like, shouldn't she be required to call Josh Allen Dad? I think that's like the rule, right?
I'll take the regression talk, though. The thing is, it's bad with me because I love quarterbacks. That is kind of my forte. I love quarterback play. I love his arm. Like I said, and talking to a lot of the coaches. I got a very good friend that was a quarterbacks coach, and we talked about Josh Allen a lot because of his arm. And he was telling me about exactly what you guys were talking about. No rainbow, velocities flying. Early in his career, you have a guy that's 5 yards in front of you and the ball's going 110 miles an hour. So it hits the hands, come popping out, so it takes a little bit. And his timeline for Josh Allen was honestly straight on, of how long this is going to take him and stuff like that. And he said, watch this kid in year three. Get him a good weapon.
I tried to tell people, when he was drafted and everybody was, how could we?
I threw my headphones against the wall in my UB computer lab. Yeah, I remember.
I watched this guy in Laramie, and he was a noodle. He was skinny little noodle. And you look at him and it's like, he's not even halfway done growing yet. And,
big guy.
Things change. And I think people really underestimated him in that regard when he played. And this is what I found shocking. When he had to go in because Nathan Peterman shit the bed.
Robyn, did you just say a swear?
I said the swear word. Anyway, when he pooped the bed.
Thank goodness. I was worried when I said that other word. I'm like, am I allowed to say that here?
Anyway,
it's called the folding round table, of course you are.
Yeah, we can fold the round table. He pooped the bed, Nathan Peterman. And I'm telling you, it was like not the time to bring in Josh Allen in his rookie year. He barely, had 3 years at the University of Wyoming. And I thought to myself, oh, my God, if this was any other quarterback, E.J. Manuel, anybody else that you would toss in at that point, like, oh, okay, now it's your time to play. And you think you're going to have the clipboard for a whole year. And all of a sudden it's all in your lap. I thought to myself, if he can handle this, he'll be okay.
Yeah.
And I thought in his rookie year, even though he stunk up the field, you could see that this kid had something in him that was going to say, I'm going to try it. I don't care. I'm going for it.
Yeah. I remember I did have money on the Vikings Bills game when they were plus 1,600 on a whim. I put $20 on the Bills to win. And man, was that was when I fell in love with Josh Allen. I'll tell you that much right there. But Robyn, you've obviously been watching him longer than all of us. So I guess we'll give a little time of day to the regression nonsense. And you already can tell how I feel about it. Do you buy it one bit? Okay, that's all we needed.
No, I don't. What I think, though, and I wrote an article in the blog this week about it, Josh Allen's hero ball and the etiology of his hero ball. I think it has a lot to do with his temperament. He's very much of a people pleaser.
Yes.
He's a hot reactor. And right now, and I don't care what anybody says, you give a guy $100 million guaranteed, especially a kid that grew up on a farm that was taught, hey, you better be what you're worth. No pressure there, right?
Right.
He's feeling the pressure. You could see it. He's back to the red face and, all that stuff. Do I think it's going to be a problem for him? No, I don't. I do think it would be helpful for him to address it more in terms of being more serious about controlling his emotions, because you could see in the game the other day, him throwing the ball into the ground and, he just looked reckless, like he did when he was a rookie. and I'll say this, Lisa, I kind of feel sorry for your Dolphins because I think he's going to just carve you guys up on Sunday.
What I liked about him, what I caught right away was he threw a horrible pass into the dirt. It was like, who are you throwing it to? But then the next thing it was like 3rd and 6, and he's going, let's go for it. Let's go for it. Every single time. Let's go for it.
Mm-hmm. No, and you say let's go for it. And yesterday on the Crowdless podcast, I kind of talked about just how much he wanted to go for it on 4th down.
Oh, everything.
So often. And really, as awful as the Bills were at so many things yesterday, they really did lose the game completely on 4th down because it was the blocked punt. It was, and I have all the 4th down listed.
4th and 8.
Oh, I got them all listed here.
How about the punt on the first punt on 4th and 1? They punted on 4th and 1
on Buffalo's 46.
What was
then they
that?
punted on Pittsburgh's 43. They didn't kick it on Pittsburgh's 35 with a 4th and 8, which was just obnoxious. Then, of course, we all know the burrito play and the blocked punt.
So, Lisa, were you referencing this past weekend when he threw the ball in the dirt?
Yeah, there was one play where he threw it in the dirt, and it was a 3rd down, and that they panned right to his face, and Robyn hit right. He was red. He was like pumped up, jacked up. He's like, "Let's go for it." And you could see his mouth to the coach. Let's go for it. Let's go for it. Give me the ball back. I want to do that again. Almost.
Josh hasn't developed that Aaron Rodgers swag yet. So Aaron Rodgers has a savvy to him and has a little bit of a swagger that Josh is still. So you're talking about a different play than I thought you were, but there was also the play that he threw the ball in the dirt to Beasley on a wide receiver screen, the only screen they attempted, and it actually wasn't a called play. Josh looked, and it was on my side of the field. Josh looked out. Beasley was there, and I don't remember who he was with. There was one defender. And Josh kind of got
it was with Gabe Davis, I think.
Was it Gabe Davis?
I think so.
Snaps the ball, and he just threw it out there as fast as he could and totally missed Beasley. It landed at his feet. Josh doesn't have that. It hasn't come yet where he's just that cool Tom Brady cucumber, Peyton Manning cucumber. Like, it's coming. It'll be there. But I thought that was a play
it'll come.
It's not.
He reminds me of Brett Favre. Do you remember Brett Favre's first throws, the first couple games? Every single time he would come in the first quarter, they were rockets. And they used to say, okay, are you calmed down now? Are you okay? Are you ready to go now? Because he was just so ready to go.
Very similar temperament. Very, very similar temperament. And Joe, I think that's right on the money.
Absolutely.
He's like a carburetor that doesn't quite run smoothly. Yeah. And I think once he gets in his head. Yeah, there you go. Seltzer smooth.
Yep.
Once he gets it in his head and he gets things under control with his emotions, I think he'll get past that. But I really like to see in year 4 him develop a little bit more self-control that way.
Right.
I think what threw me in this football game, not that we're gonna. Well, I don't. You probably don't want to talk about last week. Let's move on. So yeah. Although it's relevant.
I'm enjoying it.
What threw me in this football game, and what I want to see against the Dolphins and going forward, what we saw through all the open practices and the Packers game that he played in was his ability to throw the screen and the smoothness in the screen. And outside of that one pass that was not called that he threw, they did not throw a screen that whole football game. And to me, that is the next evolution of Josh Allen. I've got the 32-yard on 3rd and 27. I've got the 32-yard play in my back pocket. I get every ball in the field, except I don't want to throw the 5-yard. Except the 5-yard one. They didn't even run. So, Robyn, if you remember, like last year, anytime that offense was choking, they would start hitting Beasley for 1 or 2 yards, and they get the motor running. They weren't even doing that. Like it was just.
That's what I thought was so strange because when it was obvious certain things weren't working. I mean, what was with Dayball? Normally he's very good at doing his in-game adjustments, but I wasn't following his philosophy very well.
Yeah, and they weren't doing those quick ones with Beasley that chip away slowly, but they also weren't going for the deep ball really. I like the average depth of target for Josh's throws in this game as opposed to the game against the Steelers last year was 25% lower, and that's like a full 2 yards. Like that's a lot.
And that was with a bomb. That was with a bomb in there, a 60-yard pass.
That's right. That's right.
One, but only one. They didn't really. They only really tried to go beyond the sticks maybe 3 times, other than that missed deep shot to Emmanuel Sanders. And you can blame again. We're going back to the offensive line. Maybe he didn't have the time to develop those, but it also didn't seem like the first read was ever something beyond 15 yards.
Right.
So I expect to see a little bit more of that. I would have liked to see them test the young Steelers corners, but They just didn't, and that was kind of baffling to me.
So, Lisa, for you this weekend, what do the Dolphins look like, at least from what you saw against the New England Patriots, who are a screen team? They run a lot of screens.
Yeah, they
do. How do they defend that stuff this past weekend?
Well, I think you're going to have, a 4-man front. Same thing. We got to try to get pressure on the front. You're going to drop 6 easily. Cole Beasley coming in the slant is going to be always problems, and that's why I always talk about the yard after the catch.
Yep.
And that comes with Coach Flores and tackling. Like you guys know that. It's football 101. You got to make the sure tackle in front of you. You got to keep the guy in front of you. And screens killed us. Every single time I think of Buffalo Bills screens, I think of Thurman Thomas. And it just rips my heart out because it was that AFC Championship game Joe's talking about where our defense, we had one of the best defenses we ever had with Marino. I mean, it was coming up. They absolutely destroyed us. You guys destroyed us with the screen.
Wait, she's talking. Don't forget to say she's talking about 1993 when the Bills went to the playoffs as a wild card team and then won the AFC Championship game in Miami.
Yes. And
I was not a glimmer in my father's eye when that happened.
Exactly. So like I said, look at the chill bumps. I got chill bumps, guys. I'm just talking about it. See, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I want. That's what I need to get back. And it was just amazing. And Miami struggles against the screen, and we're the worst screen team ever. We can't even throw one, except when Gase was here. And how'd you like that wide receiver screen every 2 plays?
Right.
So it's just like, but one thing about Flores is he puts spots. I couldn't even tell you who probably is going to start in our defensive backfield because he keeps it so secretive until the game, because he'll go through practice, through tape, and he'll say, okay, let's look at Stephon Diggs. Well, we're gonna put Byron Jones on Diggs. We're gonna put, he'll move. He'll put they try to do the best player, and I'm sure the Bills do the same thing with us. You'll have Parker to try to stop. You'll have Albert Wilson. Don't know what's going on with Fuller. I wish I could give you guys a good update on that. But he's a no-show at practice today.
Yeah, personal reasons, right?
But he hasn't practiced, guys. How are you gonna expect? And down here, this fan base is like, oh, Fuller's it. He's the difference maker. No, he hasn't practiced. I don't even know if he'll play now. Because to me, if you play, you gotta practice.
Yeah.
So, Albert Wilson's practice, everybody else is okay, but these fans down here are so funny. It's like that's the game changer is Fuller.
I'm scared.
Like, no,
Go ahead.
The game changer is that 2 tight end set. That's going to be the game changer.
I'm scared.
I was going to say what I was going to say.
I'm scared of that. I'm scared. So I got to think. I mean, to me, we're the Spider-Man gif on Twitter where we're like pointing at each other. Because we've got 4 wide receivers that are pretty stellar and a tight end that can make a difference and had good games against the Dolphins and Dawson Knox. Meanwhile, on the opposite side, Devontae Parker, Jalen Waddle, right? Will
Waddle's
Fuller,
the real
Mike
deal,
Gesicki.
fellas.
I mean,
don't say that.
So, and I don't know that we've got the corner depth. I don't know that we've got the corner depth to cover all those guys.
We don't.
So. We also didn't utilize it in week 1. Dane Jackson got very few snaps. He wasn't targeted once by Ben, and I don't know the total snap counts, but Levi was targeted twice as many times as any other Bills player, or just about. I think Trey White was targeted 6 times, give or take. But I would like to see Dane Jackson mixed in there more. But Lisa, where can we expect to see Jalen Waddle lining up on the field? Because he might be the one player on the Dolphins offense I'm really worried about.
I have a feeling you're going to see him all over. I have a feeling you'll see him in the slant. I have a feeling you're going to see him on the outside.
Yeah.
It's just kind of depend on how everybody practices and where those mismatches that the Dolphins feel they are. So, but I mean, just watching this kid in training camp, he's got a different speed. And I always say, even on punt returns, he has a different gear. He has a Devin Hester gear. And I am not kidding. You see it. He'll start, look for the hole, and then all of a sudden you have to kind of almost do this because the kid's gone.
Right.
He's got that type of a move. So I think they're going to move him all over on you guys. I really do. I think you'll see him line up in the slot. I think you're going to see him line up outside. So you're going to get a lot of different looks for him defensively this Sunday.
I'm going to make a prediction. I think a big part of the game plan this weekend is potentially going to be Greg Rousseau, who I've met, and Greg Rousseau.
Love Greg.
Greg.
That's my boy.
He's not 6'6". That boy is every bit of 6'8". Trust me. I've seen him
Love him.
I've seen him standing next to 6'6" guys. I think with the height of Tua, I think whatever side they've got him coming from, it's going to be we don't want you to push. We want you to stop and stand and get your arms up and try to knock it down.
And
he's so long.
He's so long.
And it's a matchup that can definitely be exploited more against a guy like Tua than Big Ben, because Big is literally in the name.
Exactly. You know, you got what, 6'4" to 5 feet.
Who are we going to put on Gaskin? It's going to be Milano again.
It's Milano and Tremaine here and there. You know, Milano, you know, bright spots for the Bills, had a really good game.
So did Edmonds.
Edmonds. And so did Edmonds, and so did the two safeties.
He did, yes.
The defense as a whole played pretty lights out, which, you know, I guess, you know, the big question, Lisa, here has been CB2. Is Levi Wallace. Now, do you see him as someone, as a Dolphins fan, you're optimistic you guys can exploit? Or maybe do you think Bills fans are, you know, have an embarrassment of riches and, you know, Levi Wallace is just, you know, he's a fine CB2, but for a Super Bowl aspiring team, maybe won't be.
Yeah.
There's your answer.
Yeah, it's just it can go either way. It's so early, you know. It's like I don't want to do a first game overreaction, but I don't, you know, you want to be optimistic and say, yeah, definitely. I think it's there. But it's just the predictions with these two teams a lot of times are so hard to make because we're in division. A lot of times it's the last couple years with us battling out for second place because of Tom Brady. It was always great matchups where lately, like I said, with Josh Allen's been the big difference for you guys defensively. You're spot on. And so I would say I'm optimistic about it at this point of exploiting it. So ask me Monday.
Ask me Monday.
That's fair.
Yeah. Well, one person I really wanted to ask you about, I'm a big fantasy football guy, and obviously running backs are huge in that. And Myles Gaskin is someone that, for lack of a better word, I've hated for fantasy football. But he proved to be at least semi-reliable in week one. You know, had a relatively respectable stat line. He's effective in the pass catching game as well. So So you know, obviously Najee Harris, probably a better talent. Than Gaskin,
a little bit bigger too.
Nice
size running back.
Yeah, but how do you guys utilize Gaskin? Like how?
And they talked about that all week actually down here about that. And that is going to be a huge part. We got to open up some lanes for him. And because that's one of the things I always talk about, play action. You know, when you shut the run game down, you have no play action. You know, we had a little bit of it because the first quarter, Myles was running pretty good. We were getting some lanes open for him. And then all of a sudden just shut down. And then we just went away from him. And I don't, like Robyn said, I don't know why teams don't adjust that. Why, you know, they just abandon it. It's like, okay, you know, just like you guys were talking about Josh Allen went deep. You never went deep again. Why? Just open it up. To me, that kind of opens up some things. I love Myles Gaskin in this game because, like you said, just because of that, you know, I think he's going to have a big game. I think our offensive line is going to kind of gel a little bit. Like I said, we are getting Austin Jackson back. How much of that COVID thing, we're going to find out real quick. But if he can, you know, get going, I think he's going to be a great pack. And like I said, you got Austin Jackson back. You got Liam obviously going to keep him on the left side. You know, they're going to have to do something with Tua because of his size. And Joe hit it right on. I mean, you got some big guys back there. So I wouldn't be surprised you'll see some rollouts with Gaskin involved in that. I wouldn't even be surprised if we try a couple screens. We're the worst team in the league with it, but, you know, might just kind of keep you guys honest.
We might be tied. We might be tied.
I don't know.
Neck and neck there.
So, but, I mean, I like him. I'm starting him in my fantasy league. I'm going to start him along with Waddle.
Man.
And you know, Josh Allen's my fantasy football quarterback too.
Wow.
Really?
I did. See, that's a ceiling I had
How
on
many
him.
followers did you lose when you said that?
Oh, I don't know. I was like, listen, I just, you know, Patrick Mahomes got taken. The Chiefs line bothers me this year with Mahomes. I think he's going to be running his butt off. Josh Allen, like I said, there was no regression in my head with him. It wasn't even a thought to me. You know, I just figured with Stephon Diggs, with Samuel, I said, this kid's going to light it up. And, you know, I think he is. Like I said, got a pissed off Josh Allen coming in, you know. So he is. I took him number one. I really honestly think, I still do. Like I said, I'm not a one-game knee-jerk reaction person, though. You know, I did have my moment when Jacoby Brissett came in the game. So I had my meltdown moment.
Yeah.
So, because I was like, oh, shit, we're calling the Texans tomorrow. Oh shit, because it was like I was listening to the radio. I was actually traveling. I was trying to get back to the house, so I was listening to satellite radio, and they were so anti-Tua that as soon as Brissett entered the game, it was like, oh, Flores has had enough. He's putting Tua on the bench. I'm like, what? What's going on? And I just I had that knee-jerk reaction and threw that tweet out there, and oh my goodness. Oh.
No, see, that's like a funny thing because like when I think of Brian Flores, the first thing I think of is he needs a relief pitcher with like how he had with Ryan Fitzpatrick last year.
I think you might see it.
Yeah. So like, does that concern you at all? Because
yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. I hate it. I am a big momentum person just because we all go to these stadiums. You feel that momentum. I'm sorry.
Oh
when that team's kicking, you're just like, you're sit back in your seat and you just kind of shake your head like, yep, we're rolling. And then all of a sudden you're rolling, you got a 3rd and 2, you stop everything to get the players in, bring Jacoby in, make sure everybody's on the same page. It pissed me off, and it pisses me off because it's like, come on, I understand the mindset of Jacoby's a big guy, Tua's 5 foot, it's kind of, you understand the concept of it behind it, but it just kills momentum. And I am a big momentum person. I think if you're rolling, and even Tom Brady, you saw him just take the ball a yard, but he's a bigger dude. Mm-hmm. But then it comes to play. You got so many questions in your head at that point. It's like, okay, are they scared of Tua's size? Are you scared because he might get hurt? Are you still kind of gingering that hip? What's the mindset of breaking the momentum to bring a bigger guy in? So you kind of got to go to the hindsight of that. It's like, okay, I can see the logic with being the bigger guy. He should be able to get a yard, plus you got to understand he still can throw the ball. So is he going to just snatch that ball out and wing it? So I can kind of see it. I just don't like the breaking momentum.
Yeah.
So
and obviously, the Bills don't do as many 2 tight end sets or really any 2 tight end sets. And I kind of wish they would be able to try
quarterback
that a
in and
more.
out.
Yeah. Oh, no, not that. I mean, Mitchell Trubisky is better than Jacoby Brissett. I'll say that much. But Dawson Knox
go that far.
Really?
No, come on.
What?
No.
You don't think Mitchell Trubisky is the best backup in the entire NFL?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Quarterback debates don't matter. But Dawson Knox, is someone I want to get your thoughts on.
No injuries. No injuries. Stay healthy. No injuries. Stay healthy.
Both of us, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, because I don't want any excuses.
See,
exactly.
Okay, because going into the Pittsburgh game, a lot of people were worried about, T.J. Watt not being there. Is that a built-in excuse for a Bills win if they were to have won the game and T.J. Watt wasn't in? There's that same mindset down in Miami?
No, I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so. I think when you look at the mindset here, from my perspective of the mindset here is, like I just said, I think that it's going to be how our offense responds, and I still think. And I still say, if we can stay with you guys, and that's a big, if we can stay with you offensively and defensively to get us to the 4th quarter. I just want to get to the 4th quarter close. I don't want the game to be over the 2nd quarter like it was last year.
Right.
Because it's like, okay, it was like, and then came out in the 3rd quarter and you guys still had the full throttle on. And it was still, which was great. That's what you do. You have to stop them. It doesn't matter. Don't back off the pedal. Keep going. And so it was our job to stop. It was our job to stop Josh Allen, and we just didn't. I just want a chance to go to the 4th quarter because I would love this game to come down to a special teams play. Yeah.
Oh my God! Don't say that.
Yeah, I do. I would love
too soon
to have this game. I just want to go to the 4th quarter with you and give us a chance for one of these teams because I do. I think
Miami Dolphins
that'll be
win
huge.
on a blocked punt. I might stop podcasting.
Well, that actually brings up an interesting question interesting thought because when the Buffalo Bills allowed Bojorquez to leave, and there's conversation there that Corey didn't like being in Buffalo, whatever it is, but Corey that it didn't work out. But then we signed Matt Hawk. And I was not a fan of signing Matt Hawk because of that Week 17 game where he shanked one into the stands practically. Yep. What are your thoughts? Because in that, a couple things, that block punt for a touchdown from this past weekend from Matt, it was a complete and utter failure on the offensive line. So
okay, I was going to ask. I didn't see it. I saw the highlight of it, so
the dude was in his
I wasn't
lap.
sure what the breakdown was on that.
The dude was in his lap. Normally, it's like, you're almost there, you're just about to get it, or you do get a hand on it. The guy was like standing next to him and could have taken the ball off of his foot.
Wow.
Regardless of that, Matt Hawk did have a problem himself. He stutter stepped. He caught the ball, hitched his step, and then took 3 to punt. And by then it was like completely over. I'd love to know what your thoughts are on Matt Hawk. And were you relieved to see him go? Or was it like,
I wasn't a big Matt Hawk fan. No. Just because of that, his inconsistency in his punting. I mean, he'd have a really good punt, and then all of a sudden it's like, really, why is this guy still on our roster? That was a lot of times where I would sit up there and I'm just like, are you seriously, we can't get a better punter? Because, I always laugh with kickers. You have one job.
Yep.
One job, man. That's it. You don't do anything else. You have one job. Kick the ball.
That was 3 years of Corey Bojorquez. Like, why is this guy on a football team?
Right. And I think it was the same way with me with him.
Yeah.
It's like, and now I'm starting to kind of get it with Linger here because it's like, okay, guy, you had a great training camp. I mean, you're booming 65, 70-yard kicks. You're I don't know if it was just, I don't know. I just don't understand how sometimes you get a 70-yard kick and then the next kick is 40 yards.
Right.
And it's with no return. And I'm like, and field position is huge. Come on. I mean, you can turn the whole tide of a game by just your special teams punter if he can get you on the other side of the field and keep them there.
Yeah. But it's such a problem in Buffalo, with the
and the Hawks not your answer. I mean, you might get a great one kick. You'd be like, oh, great. Because it was a big joke down here when he would have a great kick. I was always saying, look, I'll give him a good kick. That's it. But the next kick would go 30 yards.
The thinking on the Bills part, at least that's what has been discussed by content creators in the media, is that the Bills are expecting to be punting from their own 45 to their opponent's 48. Bojorquez has no feel, no touch in that range. He literally punts it almost into the stands every single time, whereas Hawk has a little more of that subtleness to his punt and can probably drop it.
Probably get you inside the 20 or something.
Right.
I never saw that much down here. Honestly, no. I never saw it down here. Seriously. I mean, and that was a lot of things. And I always used to say that, and everybody will test that. I used to say, why are you not angling the kick when you're at the 48-yard line? Right, why are you kicking the ball straight up in the air to the 30? Right. And it always drove me crazy. I mean, I'm used to old school punting where it's the angles, get play for field position. It seems like these punters nowadays just trying just to kill it, or they're trying some fancy stuff with throwing the ball on the ground before they kick it. I don't know. It's just crazy.
I cannot wait to have intern Gabby clip this for every time Matt Hawk shanks a punt. Oh my God. That's going to be so great. Intern Gabby, get on that now, please, if you're watching. Lisa, you said that, that you want to be close in the fourth quarter. We're coming on the end of the show here, hitting the 8 p.m. mark. So give us your prediction. How do you think it's going to go? Do you think that it will be close going into the fourth quarter? Give us a final score.
I'm optimistic it'll go into the fourth quarter. If we can take it into the fourth quarter, I'm going to give the Dolphins a slight edge on that, and I'm going to say it's going to be like a 28-24 game.
28-24. Who wins?
The Dolphins win if we can take it to the fourth quarter.
Okay. Robyn, how do you feel that this weekend's going to go?
Well, I kind of had nerves about Pittsburgh. I feel a little better about the Dolphins game only because I think their defensive line is going to be a little bit of a problem for the Dolphins. 34-24 Bills, but
respective. Hey, I'll take that's respectable.
Well, I think it will be a respectable game. It's going to be a Buffalo-Miami game.
Yeah. No, I mean, honestly, I've been waiting for the rest of the division to be competitive my entire life. I've just wanted the AFC East to be competitive.
Happening.
So it's happening right now. Joe, I'll give you the last one. I'll let you close it out with your prediction. But for mine first, I'll go 31-21. I'm kind of in the same mindset as Robyn. I am a little worried. I feel like, you can only underestimate so many opponents, but I feel like we're coming into this Miami week with the same mindset that, we should come away easily. And I am not, Houston just beat Jacksonville. Tyrod Taylor looked good. Every win has to be earned in the NFL.
Right.
And I do think this one might end up being closer than people imagine, but still take the Bills and take the over. Joe, give us your score prediction to close out the show here.
So if I'm going to tell a story,
I would love that.
The Buffalo Bills, when you're looking at the Bills versus the Dolphins over the last, 10 years or so, Mario Williams was the answer first, right? Like Ryan Tannehill's worst nightmare was Mario Williams. And obviously with as much as Charles Clay could do. And then we got Charles Clay, and then Charles Clay started destroying the Dolphins for the Bills. And then Josh Allen came along, and Josh Allen has pretty much owned it. I mean, the joke in Buffalo is that, he's the Dolphins' daddy, which I love that. So, but even with that, going into last year's Week 17 game, the Dolphins, in my opinion, we know they needed that football game to make the playoffs for the first time. They had all kinds of reason. The Bills had no reason to win that football game. I was a little bit wondering what I was going to see, and what I saw was the Dolphins team that got off the bus and turned around and wanted to get right back on the bus, which was completely surprising. I have a great deal of not knowing what to expect in this football game outside of matchups. For some reason, the Bills and Josh Allen matches up very well against that Dolphins football team. I think it's going to be a close game, but not as close as the score says. I've got 24-17 Buffalo, but I think that last touchdown comes from the Dolphins late in the football game. I think
so. That's the give me touchdown. That's the run the clock out. Just give me the touchdown.
That's Mike Gesicki's touchdown.
Right. I think there's a great deal in this football game for me of the Bills still trying to figure some of this offensive line stuff out. And I think the Bills defense is returning to the 2019 form. With a plus that the run game or the run defense, the rush defense is actually going to be there this year, which in 19 they had a little bit of trouble, 20 they had a horrible time. So for me, this is going to be more of a defensive battle between both teams as the Bills are trying to figure it out. And then I think, like I said, 24-17 for me.
Yeah, no, I mean, this game could go so many different directions. It could be similar to the Pittsburgh game, to be completely honest. That Dolphins defense, it's not a joke. They have some talented players.
They got some talent.
They could give us, they could give us some trouble there.
All of us, all of us are. I mean, we got what I think the AFC is the youngest average players in the thing. And we go back to the crowd noise down here too. I mean, I don't think I've been to a Miami Buffalo game down here where it hasn't been almost split 50-50. I mean, Bills Mafia fans travel extremely well.
I've gone,
and they love this stadium down here, and it's no joke. And it's been that way since the 80s. Pisses me off, but it's been that way since the 80s. Because I mean, it's embarrassing when you hear defense in your own stadium when you're on off. I mean, it's embarrassing, and it goes back to those Darryl Talley, Bruce Smith, Cornelius Bennett days. And can I say a quick story? Or we got enough time for me?
Give it to us.
Please do.
There was a Monday night game. I don't know which one it was because back then it was those were the games that gave you the chills. It was the Marino Kelly shootouts. Monday night game. Every single time, those three, Cornelius Bennett, Darryl Talley, Bruce Smith. At that time, I sat in like 153, which I sat at that time. It was Joe Robbie Stadium. There was only one way to come into the game, the tunnel, and I was sitting right on top of it. So they would always come out onto the field in front of me. To go back, they would come towards me. They took those three every single time they were down here at our stadium. Everybody else would kind of go in except for them three. They would start from the opposite end zone, walk all three of them right down the center of the field, right over our Dolphins the logo in the field, to just cascade of booze. And you know what? I used to watch them through the they could care less. These guys, I mean, and that's football right there. That's old type. That just gives you chill. That's like you SOBs because they didn't care. That was like this. They would just all through them. Man, Darryl Talley, Bruce Smith. There's some good times right there, and that's what I want to get back to. I want, like you said, let's get some players that have some history together that you hate to play.
It would be really nice to see Josh Allen and Tua going up against each other for years to come. Like that just makes football so much better.
Right.
That's what the sport was made for.
Good. AFC East is fun to watch.
Exactly. Yeah. And obviously it'll be fun to watch this weekend when the Bills and the Dolphins play each other. Patriots and Jets play each other too. So a big AFC East weekend for the division. But until then, that'll do it for us here on the Folding Roundtable. This weekend, Trainwreck Sports will have some more NFL coverage. Obviously, Free Money Football is going to be giving out their picks Saturday. Trainwreck Fantasy Football is going to be doing DFS on Saturday morning. So make sure you tune into those. But obviously, had some great people here tonight. Joe Miller from Buffalo Rumblings, Robyn Mundy from Buffalo FAMBase, and Lisa Johnson from Our Turf Football. Everyone, thank you for being here. This was a phenomenal edition. The smallest table we've had so far on the Folding Round Table, but this was a good one. So thank you everyone for being here.
Appreciate you guys.
Thanks.
Go Bills.
Go Bills, and we'll be back next week.
Fans.
Of course.
It's up.
No, someone mute her.
Mute her.
We'll be back next week, same time, same place, but of course with a different lineup. For myself, Buffalo FAMBase and Trainwreck Sports. Good night.